Good afternoon, friends. In today's video, I'm going to be exposing the Eat Clean Bro GRIFT, my experience with them from beginning to end, as I've chronicled in several different videos here. Why never to do business with them, to stay as far as humanly possible away from them. Follow me instead, actually, because that is free. And I appreciate all of you, even though you're following me for free, unlike Eat Clean Bro that hates every paying customer that comes their way, in my opinion. So you might be asking yourself, why am I making this video? Why, to some of you that are like, Jason, you're poking the bear, or, just be the bigger person and let it go. Like, why are you even making this video? Why are you poking the bear, as some people might say? And that's a fair question, right? If I dislike being a customer so much, like all of you watching this video absolutely would, then why even make a video about it? Because consumers' rights are equally as important as the rights of business owners or employees. Consumers' rights are, in my opinion, to at least to a certain extent, even more important than employees' rights or the rights of business owners. There are certain things, right, that are morally right, morally right and wrong when it comes to running a business and being a consumer or a customer. There are things that are, good or bad or indifferent. That's just part of running a company or running a YouTube channel or Instagram page like I have, and many people do. And then there's the things that are just wrong on so many levels. It's not only infuriating, but it's hurtful based on your loyalty to them, which Eat Clean Bro definitely absolutely does not care about with any of their customers, which we'll get into. And it just, again, I try and be the best person that I can be. I wake up every day with the intention of, I'm not perfect, but I try and do the right thing. And you might be saying, Jason, you don't run a business. How can you speak to logistics are the easiest part of a business? Well, I understand it's different than shipping food to people, but using a Instagram or YouTube account as an example, you have to post the content. So in this case, it's the product that I have. For a second thing, if people don't like what you're posting, or if you are not getting any engagement or have a L take, as the internet might say, then you just change your approach, apologize to your audience, or however you want to put it, but you adapt, right, with the feedback. That's not to say that you always need to do that in every single circumstance, but as relates to my experience, like that's what you're supposed to do. If I post something that's maybe a little bit more provocative or people don't get it, or whatever the case is, right? People just don't like what I post, and I'm getting the people taking time out of their day to let me know that. It's only in my best interest, to change my response a little bit, tweak my content. It's really no different with the delivery of food. And so oftentimes what would happen when I would get food delivered from Eat Clean Bro, even when I was living in New Jersey, I've since moved, which is part of where the problems start to come in, which we'll get to. But even when I was living in New Jersey, I would have to wait any time between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. for my food to be delivered. And they never, ever once, out of all the emails that I sent them, would provide accurate tracking information. So, for example, if I sent them an email at 10 o'clock in the morning, hey, when's my food gonna be here? Can you give me some kind of update? The response would be anytime between 8 a.m. and 12 or 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. That could change, and all that corporate bullshit jargon. So what their response always would be when I'd be like, hey, when's my food gonna be here? Because at the time I could spend 12 hours at home just waiting for a delivery, but not everybody has that luxury. So I would send them an email, hey, when's my food gonna be here? And it would just be a very generic corporate, ridiculous email that I'd get back. It could be there anytime between 8 a.m. and 12, or 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Might be there a little bit sooner or later. That just depends on the delivery route. So really nothing gained from that particular email. But I would always advocate, because in my opinion, I could run their business better, a lot better actually than they do. But I would always, so as a loyal customer of theirs, I would always email them, be like, hey, love your food, love your customer service. You guys need a lot better tracking information for your customers. I really just want to, emphasize that. No big deal, nothing personal or whatever. Love your food. They would always be like, oh, well, that's great, thanks. And then just never do anything about it, like ever. Fast forward to, almost 2 years of that going on. And when I say that, like, having to wait, like 12 hours just to know when my food's going to be delivered, it's really not the end of the world, right? This is something that is definitely fixable. But in terms of my experience with them up to that point, it wasn't like a deal breaker. It wasn't anything, out of this world insane. It was just something that was mildly annoying, but not that big of a deal. I've since moved to a warmer climate, warmer state, and they advertise on all of their advertising, their website, and anywhere else that they can deliver anywhere from the northeast to the southeast. It's just a 2 to 3 day delivery window. So I'm like, perfect. I'm gonna move to where I'm getting to. Then I'm gonna order from them. And if you look at their terms and conditions, if you look at that specifically, if you're out of the state where they operate in New Jersey, anywhere in the northeast and the southeast by their own policy, it's a 2 to 3 delivery window. And that's specifically if they use OnTrack, which is even worse than how they run their business, in my opinion, because OnTrack has no and I don't understand it being a delivery service that somebody pays for, and the delivery service itself has no tracking information. But that's a different topic. So OnTrack is awful. Never use them either, but they have no tracking information, and the packages could be there at any time. So the point of eCleanBro using OnTrack is that it's supposed to get there within 1 to 2 business days. However, my particular delivery got there 5 days late, so the food wasn't even edible anymore, from not just not just from like I'm upset kind of stance, but also just from a legal food safety perspective. The food was supposed to be inedible, which it was. The package arrived completely destroyed. It was like obliterated, highly inappropriate. That's not necessarily eCleanBro's part, but it was really upsetting, especially with all the feedback that I gave them. So I was really upset about this, and I sent them a large email saying, I'm never working with you guys again. I'm recommending to everybody that I don't. And at this time I kept that private. I didn't post about it at the time, because I'm like, I don't like burning bridges. Like I feel like I have no other choice in this instance, but I really don't like doing it. I like giving people the benefit of the doubt and giving them the chance to rectify their poor decisions. So I was really upset, but I was willing to hear them out. So, and I'll put a receipt somewhere here. They told me a couple things. One, that they were sorry, and they gave me a refund to try again, which they did. For two, though, they told me the food was edible, which is just a flat out lie. And they knew it was a flat out lie. They just didn't care about my health or my safety with their food, in my opinion. So they told me just go ahead and eat the food. So broader point being is I was pretty upset. I was willing to give eCleanBro another chance, which that was a mistake on my part. But I was like, all right, let me hear them out. They did try and rectify everything initially. And I'm thinking that's the end of it, right? I'm thinking, all right, cool. I'll get the food that I like. This won't be an issue again. Lo and behold, it's an issue again. Cause I ordered one, meal that got to me. That one got to me okay. And then I got another one that was 5 days late. So same thing. pretty upset, called their customer service line. I'm like, this is unacceptable. And I got the runaround, right? The thing I've learned about eCleanBro, if you call their customer service, not to get too sidetracked, but this is also important, is any customer service line, they will have a script, but they actually care. Like, down to the customer service agent, they do actually care. Everybody has a bad day when it comes to customer service and that kind of thing. Training varies by business, of course, but most places that they'll actually try and resolve your needs. eCleanBro is fake, very, very fake in that regard. And what I mean by that is rather than actually try and come to a solution or resolution, it's just a bunch of corporate mumbo jumbo, like similar to how those emails would come across when I would actually give them feedback that they didn't care about. Like, hey, I think it's important that you guys try and improve your process, for delivery or timing or that kind of thing. But again, eCleanBro just doesn't care, in my opinion. So, but I say that because when I called eCleanBro's fake customer service, very, very fake, there was just something very off about it. It was almost as if this person, any person that I got, was reading a script of corporate talking points and not actually listening to any damn thing that I was saying. It was corporate mumbo jumbo, basically. And sure, that is a time and place, right, when you run a business. But when it comes to customer service, that's the last thing that you want to sound like. You want to make sure that your customer feels heard. If they're frustrated, but they're willing to actually spend their time getting on that line, actually, take the time to actually care, for lack of a better way to put it. Don't give them all this corporate bullshit fakeness that eCleanBro, apparently likes. That's just business and customer service 101, is actually try and care about the people paying you money, right? But eCleanBro doesn't care. They couldn't care less, actually, in my opinion. So anyway, so I called them. I was upset, and I was like, "This is ridiculous. Like, I don't see why you guys can't get this right." Because on the one hand, sure, I'm living in a different state now, right? I'm not living where their services are initially distributed from or stored, or however you word it. But then don't advertise that you can ship all up and down all the Northeast and the Southeast. I don't know why you would do that if you're just not going to care or expect these logistical problems, which eCleanBro doesn't. So anyway, so I was upset, spoke to a couple people there, and they reassured me that this would not be an issue again. They're like, I am paraphrasing, but basically they were like, I'm very confident that this won't be an issue again. Place your orders on, this day. And I'm thinking, okay, like this will be the end of it. And I told them specifically, I'm like, I really don't want to have this conversation again. Well, lo and behold, Saturday comes around when my next order is supposed to be delivered, and the person delivering the food, he just didn't want to deliver it that day. I don't know what happened. But if we're being super technical, that was eCleanBro's fault. And they, of course, are snakes and slime balls, in my opinion. So they tried to deflect and say that was UPS's fault at that point. And here's where the cracks really start to unfold. Because I am not like a male Karen, basically. I know I probably look like it with the support musicians, baseball cap, and the sunglasses, probably looking like a douche a little bit. Pardon my language. However, I'm not like a male Karen type or a Devo, if you're into into that kind of thing. I'm not one of these people that's a problem. Like I love, again, being as kind and courteous to as people. I'm not perfect. I try to be that way, and I try and be objective when it comes to trying to find a solution to things, and not let the emotion get the best of me. But eCleanBro kept provoking me, and this is where the things get kind of interesting. So I called them very upset, and there's a unique shift in tone where they're like, well, this was the driver's fault, this wasn't our fault. Okay, then why would you have on your website? And it's very confusing. I'm going to put a screenshot right here somewhere of what it looks like. But basically, if you have never done business with these people, and never do, by the way, in case I haven't stated that enough, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, do business with eCleanBro. Follow me instead. But if you go to their website and you try and do a shipment rather than like a local delivery, which they suck at that too. But if you try and do a shipment from them, what ends up happening is it shows the day that the food is shipped. So let's say that I place an order on this Monday, right? Through eCleanBro, there's a screen grab somewhere in that area. If I decide to do that, which I never would, but just for demonstration purposes, the Monday means that the food is not supposed to be there to me or whoever is placing the order until that particular Wednesday. So it's a two-day delay time, technically speaking. It's never stated once on the website that that's what this is. If you want to be super particular, they added a very sleazy, slimy, scummy terms and conditions fakeness right there. But that doesn't mean, again, nobody reads that. You could just say ships out on this day. How long would that take? 2 seconds to add to the website. But anyway, so they again are very, very sneaky with that. And the one thing I've worked in restaurants, worked in customer service, and when you're dealing with food people, or like when you're dealing with people that are hungry, right, ordering food at a restaurant or a service or whatever else, those are the people that you have to be as courteous to to them as you possibly can. Because those people are hungry, right? They're a little bit more grumpy, a little bit more agitated, but they're agitated for a purpose of you having the privilege of serving them, which eCleanBro takes for advantage, in my opinion. So it's very aggravating, to say the least, when you wait 2 days for food when it looks initially like it's supposed to be delivered that Monday, and then you wait 2 days to begin with. And then it gets there a couple days late, and just for health and safety reasons, you're not even supposed to eat it. But for some reason, eCleanBro hates their customers so much that they encourage people to eat spoiled food, in my opinion. So to circle back to the beginning of this video, why am I poking the bear, so to speak? Because there are people where I will, just in my personal life, off of Instagram and YouTube and off of social media, where I will tell stories like this to them, and they'll be like, that's really aggravating, Jason, but just let it go. Just don't do business with them anymore. Just forget about the disrespect, forget about the inappropriate, in my opinion, ways that they've treated you. Just let it go. Just be the bigger person. And I can no longer do that in this particular case, because I've really tried. I've given eCleanBro all the benefits of the doubt, even when, in my opinion, they haven't deserved it. And they've actually broken my trust. If you've watched this far, thank you. I'm sure it sounds like me just rambling at this point, but the point is they've broken my trust, right? If I from the outside looking in, I could run their business 250% better than they absolutely can. But all right, I deleted the previous videos, which I'm now going to re-upload, because I'm thinking to myself, at the end of the day, maybe, again, it's just a coincidence that I had a lot of life changes occur. I got really upset because eCleanBro was not being very helpful with that. They were adding stress to my life that was not necessary. But we all make mistakes, right? Like, again, a lot of mistakes in a row, but the point is I try to look at things from an objective way, not get upset, not be provocative, when I probably should have. I probably should have just kept the 2 videos that I posted about them up, because I know I've said it probably 100 times in this video. Please, 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 if you take anything away from this video, if you watch the whole thing, never, ever, ever do business with eCleanBro. Follow me instead. Because I'm 100% sure, because I'm very confident at the end of the day, you might have like a decent experience with them first, But eventually you'll just be as frustrated as I am when I tell this final part of this story. Or maybe even worse than just really, really aggravated. So I order another meal service from them. I was like three or four of them. So I was already like, all right, I like their food at the end of the day. I will purchase it. You know, I want to give them one more try, or just do kind of a clean restart. You know, like, all this is in the past. I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. Let's do a reset here, and I'll order another thing. I sent a couple I also sent a couple emails to the CEO of the company that doesn't care at all, because they've made millions of dollars and they just couldn't care less at this point, in my opinion. But in those emails, which I'll also screenshot here, I sent several emails saying, hey, like, I want to do business with you guys. I want to do business with you guys, but I also, at the same time, I cannot set these awful standards that, you know, you guys have for the way that you treat your customers. Because the corporate mumbo jumbo, that's all that it is. Like, these people are, again, I'm not saying every consumer business or customer service team is perfect and 100%. And I'm sure if you can think on your own experiences, that there's bigger, larger businesses that you've had a really, really, you know, frustrating experience with. But at the end of the day, at some point in time, you've given them another chance. Maybe they've lived up to you giving them another try, or maybe they haven't. But that's up to you to decide. I tried to take the hypothetical, or objective, I guess, way to put it, same approach to that, where I want to eat their food. I want to have a good experience. I know for a fact that I am a very, with all the emails that I've sent to them, and you know, the receipts of everything, I've been more than understanding. Not a, you know, like a vile person or anything on email, or when they give you know, when I've given them a call. Very respectful, very appropriate. All of that to say, all of the people that are like, Jason, just let it go. You know, like, you know, it's not a big deal. They might have been right initially. And that's what I was trying to do by placing another order. I will share another receipt somewhere over here if you want to pause the video and read the whole email that I got today. You can read the whole thing like somewhere around here. I'm going to screenshot the email that I got from them. But basically, if you don't pause the video, that's fine too. But basically this video, in it, or but if you don't pause the video, that's fine. Basically what this email says is that they've decided to not do business with me for no reason, basically. I did a little bit of digging and research, and they use FedEx for their expedited shipping, for a little bit of context. And I will place a screenshot somewhere over here that UPS does one-day shipping, even if it's more expensive. They still do it for perishable goods. So if they truly wanted to find a solution, I did 2 seconds of research, and they could have said, Mr. Jason, we're extremely sorry. We cannot guarantee that, you know, you'll have a good experience if you try with us again, but we really want to provide you the best service. I know it's a little bit more expensive. It's $20 extra for overnight shipping, but this would solve your problem. At that point, okay, I'd be fine with that. But this fucking email right here is these people basically not liking me expressing my First Amendment right to share my story online like I've done. They don't like the fact that I keep calling in because a bunch of, in my opinion, lazy fucks run this company, or run this business. The laziest of lazy. Look, if you get 200, like, you know, because again, I'm not the only customer that has these. If you go to their Google reviews, which I'll place right here, and I'll put mine up, so follow me, fuck these people. But if you go, the other thing is, if you go to the Google reviews, because I know for a fact I'm not, as I mentioned, the only person complaining about this stuff and them just not caring. And they don't care, because the people that give 1 and 2 star reviews, like myself, have said, you know, very similar things. never do business with them. You know, my delivery was late or delivered to the wrong address. They didn't try and rectify it. Yada, yada, yada. So if they truly wanted to improve their process, which they don't, they would take all of that feedback to heart, or maybe the customers that are a little bit more inappropriate than I am, which I'm sure that they get, because that's just part of dealing with the public. But this schemy, slimy, scummy, fake scam business practices that eCleanBro is doing with this email that I posted a couple minutes ago. The way that I interpret this email right here, I want to be very clear about this, because I understand that I'm paraphrasing, but the way that I interpret what they emailed me this morning is, fuck you, Jason. Fuck your opinion. Fuck you for being a loyal customer. We couldn't care less what you think. We couldn't care less about the good fucking will that you've given us. So fuck you. Fuck the fact that you've given us thousands of dollars over the last 2 years to do business with us. You know, we should be thanking you, because you got to understand, this is a bully manipulation tactic. It's not actually that they'll never do business with me. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't care. But this is not what this says. This is an intimidation, bully manipulation tactic. And it's very cunning in the way that it's written on purpose. They saw my other 2 videos, so I know you guys are watching this one, so fuck all of you. But they saw my videos. They read those emails. They read the fact that I was unsatisfied as a customer. This is a bully manipulation tactic, and I want to be very clear about that, because on the one hand, you know, was this a big deal to begin with? I'll leave that open to your interpretation. Tell me in the comments if you think I overreacted. But that's not what this is. This is a bully intimidation tactic to get me to apologize for my experience with them, their fuck-ups, and for me to essentially beg and plead for them to do business, you know, for me to accept them back into my life again. And when they recommended that I eat food that was no good anymore, and it made me sick for, you know, a couple days, but their recommendation was to eat expired food. So yeah, when eCleanBro feels as though our hard-earned dollars are an entitlement to them and their awful service rather than a privilege, which is what it is, as I've discussed, when you serve food to people and are blessed enough to have customers like I used to be in. When the fact of the matter is they did not follow, in my experience with them, food safety procedures. When I gave them valid and very fair customer feedback, when I tried to find a resolution saying I'm willing to spend more money with them, after spending thousands of dollars with them, on top of all of that, and then to get this fucking tone. Fuck them. And again, I'm gonna drop it going forward. I'm not gonna talk about this again unless eCleanBro wants to, you know, poke the bear on my end and continue to be a bunch of dickheads, in my opinion. But just use my experience with this awful dog shit service just as a lesson, which I will also do, to not let people intimidate you or bully you, especially when you're giving them your hard-earned money. Don't let these people do that. Fuck them. Fuck eCleanBro. Never do business with them. Follow me instead at the Jason Pyne. Thank you for your time watching this video. Be sure to follow me on all platforms. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Got some cool stuff planned. Some new episodes of the Pyne Time podcast are on the way. And I will catch you all in the next one. Peace out. Talk to you all soon.